Abusua kwaba by the POG political media. So say transit na te say my Ghana political updates ni bi na yeso aboabo am. Say do abeso my Ghana na omo so ahu the aircall and the airbar e my Ghana political highway ni so. Na share so your for POG Media. So na so drop subscription and the any bo kwan so with me I drop subscription no hit notification bell no na wa share na for so answer so etimi aka na betimi so abo e the comment section ho na so etimi edi nkomo e the fa dwumadi yi ho na POG Media man se beba na yen so aba be ma ho eye emuai na ye bo e the right nsem ma na che ye bo e the right eye nsem pa che se eno so aba e the ama some prisoners bi a yura John Dramani Mahama and so among etimi among Amnesty a che se so if you so and so aba be kai ho na we na nsɛm a kyɛ sɛ ɛno nso ɛba ɛfa ho yɛ kyɛ sɛ ɛyɛ aseda ɛna nipa bebree ɛde da yɛwura John Dramani Mahama ase so ɛtumi nso ateki saa bold decision a ɔno nso ɛtumi agya ɛyɛ nipa dodoɔ yi ɛde aba bɛka yɛn ho na we na mranimni Martin Kpebu ɛde nsɛm bi ɛba bɛto dwa sɛ ɛyɛ saa nkɔfo a yɛwura John Dramani Mahama ɛnso ɛtumi ɛma ɔmo saa akwanya yi ma ɔmo bɛka yɛn ho no emu nipa tu bi wɔ mu a na kyɛ sɛ ɛyɛ MPP aban na yura na do dan kwa da no no o man fa emra kwan so na che se o mo so etimi ye de jeli eye sankofo koi na ono so timi bubo o mo din ebubo ekwan a MPP aban eso efa so e de o mo koto afiase me se bejebre na abo e de rasanti milase
998 of them in different categories enjoying different forms of mercy by the president. How did this strike you?
Yeah, it's refreshing, Mr. Okansi. It's a good move by the president. He's done it in good time. Earlier on, I stated that over a period, usually in times past, the presidents did it just prior to Republic Day. So sometimes those years you hear that as part of the celebration of Republic Day, 1st July, blah, 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 the president has exercised his prerogative of mercy and Article 72 and blah, blah, right? So around that time, yes, or sometimes a few days before Republic Day, etc., right? But, you know, it's not written in law that it must always be around Republic Day. And also, I'm saying, so I guess it's not too far from the Republic Day that now, I mean, we've turned into National Day of Thanksgiving and Prayer, okay? But I was making a point earlier on in another platform earlier on with you on 3FM that when President Akuffo was in office, there was this time that he didn't exercise it for the longest time, and it caused a lot of unrest. I remember it clearly because at that time, I had petitioned for a client, and it had taken so long, especially as the reason we were very disappointed was that there was one of the Akuffo appointees who was previous lawyer for this, my client. So he was actually holding that brief. And then they won elections. And now he was sitting very close to the president. But I can tell you, for almost 2 years, it wasn't going through. So when you hear pardon, etc., it can be very complex, especially in the time of Akuffo. Looking at who that lawyer was, I don't want to mention names. We are discussing the principle. I want to show that sometimes it can be very complex because this lawyer was almost always sitting near the president, yet the young man didn't get a pardon easy. We just thought that, oh, if your former lawyer is almost in the Akuffo circles, your pardon there, it will come in 2 weeks. But I never did for a long time. And you know what actually helped the pardon at that time was the COVID. So when COVID hit and there were problems in the prisons, COVID over there, etc., then the prison service was able to push, and then finally Akuffo gave in. Yeah.
I see. It's that leads me to the details of what we read, because if you look at the death sentence that has been varied now to life imprisonment, and if you the details of 72(1) empowers the president to do so. We abolished the death penalty in 2023. The president, I mean the former president Akuffo assented to it before leaving office. But we've seen it being actualized now with these persons who are serving their death sentences, their sentences now being varied to life imprisonment. Counsel.
Yes, absolutely. The president has done a yeoman's job on the in this area. He's done a yeoman's job because, like we said, at the time Francis Xavier Susu pushed for the passage or enactment of the abolition of the death penalty, I remember at that time there were over 150. And even sometime last year when this matter came up again, the numbers have always been over 150 on death row. When we say death row, that's those who have been convicted to suffer death because they had also murdered or were involved in mutiny in the armed forces or high treason, right? Yeah, that was a huge number. So when Xavier Sosu did that yeoman's job and we got the law passed, we beseech Akuffo once again to commute the sentences of those who are already on death row to life imprisonment. Simply because, well, maybe I shouldn't say simply, because of the problem of solitary confinement on death row. When somebody is on death row, in Sawam, they call it condemned cells, right? Condemned cells, yes, and also outside Ghana, you hear in the UK. So that word, condemned cells, there was a lot of solitary confinement. The conditions are horrific. So we kept begging President Akufo that, if we've abolished the death penalty, then those who are already on it, we didn't say free them to come outside, but commute all of them on block to life imprisonment so that their socialization can be substantially increased. You see, because human beings, socialization is very important. You get to talk to the next human being. It helps to keep your spirits up, etc. Because the condemned cells, they'll tell you that they always live in fear, even though we all know that since 1993, nobody's been executed. But once you're in the condemned cells, technically it means that at any moment, they can come for you and go and carry it out. So the fact that we haven't executed anybody since 1993 is no answer. Actually, to tell you the truth, when Amnesty International was leading charges for us to abolish the death penalty and they came to me, I said, we don't execute people. We have bigger problems in the criminal justice system. What is this? Then they reminded me about solitary confinement. And so I did the research that led to eventually Sosu using that to getting the law passed. Yeah. Prior to that, we had gone to Akuffo to tell him the new research that, let's remove the death penalty from Act 29. And so you would have solved the problem by about 95%. Then you leave the death penalty that is in the Constitution. That's high treason. Okay? Akuffo said, yes. His Attorney General was there. I've told the Attorney General to work on it. Afterwards, it was difficult. Long story short, eventually Sosu became MP, and then Sosu took it on, did a private member's bill, and then, so eventually we have this. But there's still death penalty in the armed forces, right? That's something that we should deal with. So the point we're making is that, look, President Mahama is done well by commuting 87. 87 is huge. So we'll beg him that those still on the death row, he should just finish them up by bringing all to life imprisonment so that they can, enjoy a bit of life.
See, and that's instructive because the law does not take retrospective effect. So essentially it would mean that it is only a presidential intervention or amnesty that would come in as a lifeline to these persons who are on death row.
Yes, absolutely. You make a good lawyer. Yes, you make a good lawyer. So it doesn't take retrospective effect. So those who are already suffering the death sentence, it means, yes, they are to suffer it. But like we said, we haven't executed anybody since 1993. And also, let's give this further education. So the practice is that when a person is sentenced to death, when he's on death row, usually the prison service, there's this policy they use. Of course, it's the president who agrees to do it. He serves 20 years in solitary confinement before the sentence is commuted to life imprisonment. So there was that process that we're using. But you have to go through the torture for 20 years. Then after 20 years, the president will commute to life. So you see, when we get further details, then we even understand that, hey, this 87, how many of them did the 20 years? But whatever it is, from experience, 87 out of the 150 something, it looks like the president has done something good. But maybe the Attorney General and those from the presidency will do us some good if they will tell us out of the 87, how many met the old policy where somebody on death row will serve 20 years before qualifying for this rate to be commuted to life imprisonment.
I see.
Okay.
But if you look at the category, and this is going to be my final one, the categories of the persons who have enjoyed this amnesty, some of them, I mean, it goes without saying. So if someone is seriously ill, 33 of them have been giving this amnesty of the people or who have been sentenced to death and now life imprisonment. Those life imprisonment now having their sentences commuted to 20 years straight term. But how about the petitions as well? We understand some 2 petitions for the release of some 2 inmates has also been considered by the president. I mean, what guides that kind of consideration? Because that's not explicitly stated in Article 72(1), is it?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, but, because we don't have much time, I'll just give a few based on what I've seen in practice. So, I mentioned that number 1, if somebody writes a petition and he has strong backers, okay, people with deep political, a person with a deep political voice or people with deep political voices back the person, generally it works well. I said generally because remember I just gave you the example that under President Akuffo, when there was a big lawyer very close to him who was lawyer for this young man. He was, like I told you, I thought, when they brought me the brief and they said, this man sitting near Akuffo is the previous lawyer. Then I said, then this work will be very easy. So quickly we put the letter together and like I told you, about 2 years before it worked. But generally, when there is strong political force, it helps. That's one. Then number 2, you also look at the merits of the case. If it's very clear that the person didn't get justice in a court of law, and once in a while it happens. Judges are human beings. Mistakes happen, okay? It's not only in Ghana. I'm not saying so it should continue happening. But because we don't have much, I have to talk quickly. So I'm not belittling people's liberties. But I'm just recognizing that in life, mistakes happen. So if you put together a strong petition and it shows clearly that something went wrong in the court of law, yes, the president will grant it. And I'm saying that even in the UK, there's what they have criminal.
Sound like POG Media, I'm share Obejo Pro like. Now, someone subscribe to a POG Political Media so any day any book on so Obejo Pro subscription now I share no for first low answer so it's me account so no matter the echo any day ever or my Ghana a political space in them. Now your boy the rare in sim man and say a Martin Kpebu and some much say on also edit 2 you say yes BBC yeta koso Republic Day ebra Ghana and so it means celebrity and Republic Day and 1st July. Now we you are John Dramani Mahama and so it me empa sad date no one come here say a processes are a long one and also all the sank of Korea and also one Amnesty mom mekan on the fast processing intina a date no it me a delay ya and so a sank of Korea and so it me mekan a late no measures ever to us 90 issues no.
Now this commission, okay? So the Criminal Review Commission, where mistakes happen in the courts, and you send your case to that place, they will look at it, there are judges involved. Once they think, no, the Court of Appeal, Criminal Division made a mistake, then they recommend back to the court that, no, this case, based on X, Y, Z, we think you shouldn't have convicted. And then it's quashed. So elsewhere, they have that system. But Ghana, no. If you do up to Supreme Court and you lose, then it means that it's only the president who can save you, right? So if you build a docket and the president gets his lawyers to look at it and they say, yes, this one, something bad happened in the court, you get it, all right? So that's another reason why you get it. And then you mentioned the ill health, people who are not well. I'll give you a famous example. Remember the former Deputy National Security Coordinator when JM was president, Alhaji Osman Mimina, right? He was Deputy National Security Coordinator. He was convicted in the Bawumia case, that's the NCA trial, TTV, Bawumia, etc. Eventually, when Akuffo granted him pardon, he said, Alhaji Osman wasn't well. He's a chief as well, so he was granting him pardon. At least a public statement. If you Google, you see.
Yeah, I mean
he
the
was
likes of
granted.
Abu Gapele and all. I mean they enjoyed that pardon on that basis of ill health, isn't it?
Good. Then also, when the person has an exceptional talent, right? Exceptional talent. I mean, that's everybody agrees that this person is exceptionally talented, is useful to society. The president grants pardon. Our famous example is G-Man. G-Man was convicted in the 90s. G-Man and a Jaga P, right? And G-Man, when Akuffo was president, G-Man had, let's say, repented, and he had become, he was teaching the inmates music, he became a pastor, etc. And Akuffo granted him pardon. G-Man came out. G-Man is in America. The last time I knew, he's a pastor in America. So you see, G-Man went in, but because of his exceptional talent, relatively in no time, he was out. But I'm sure G-Man went and met some people who are still there, right? So you see, exceptional talent can also. So there are a whole number of them. Let's also mention that apart from the pardons, also in the Prison Service Act, right?
Right.
Yes. The law says that, let's say, if a person is sentenced to, let's say, 30 years for, let's say, armed robbery, robbery. Under the law, you don't serve all the 30 years. You have to serve 2/3.
Okay.
So if you see 30 years, the person doesn't spend 30 years. He will spend 20. So if it's 3 years, you spend 2. So you divide it by 3 and throw away 1. Then you will serve this. In other countries, it's half. In the UK, for instance, it's half, 50%. You don't serve 2/3.
I see.
It's Ghana there, we are harder, right? Yeah. Generally, our manners are harder. As we develop, we may become softer.
It's gonna get
so
better.
that's another thing we should be looking at, that in this sense. So when they do this prerogative of mercy, etc., maybe we should be distinguishing from the law which says that when a person is sentenced, they serve 2/3. They don't serve all the 4. Because sometimes you're like, hey, are they also included, or what's the criteria? Okay.
And I do appreciate you. This is a whole legal law lecture for tonight. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I know we'll have another platform and discuss this a bit more detail. Martin Kpebu, appreciate you. Is a celebrated human rights lawyer joining us on Zoom right now. Thank you so much for joining us, and appreciate you as well. And those of you who stay with us here on Ghana Tonight with the kind of legal aid and breaking the issues down. Dennis Bravély with Exp0sé is going to be here. So stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. But coming up next year on Ghana Tonight, in another act of amnesty, this time not by government, but by the NPP. They say that all suspended members and individuals facing ongoing disciplinary proceedings have been granted a pardon. So whereas the president has just granted pardon to these inmates, prisoners, the NPP has also granted amnesty to all its members who were suspended, as well as those who are facing disciplinary cases that are pending. So that's the decision the party has taken. So they are also in the mood of mercy. And this was contained in a statement signed by the General Secretary of the party, which has since received a lot of reactions. And in fact, some persons who were suspended by the party say, well, the manner in which they were suspended, they rather want to be apologized to before they come back. They don't want this kind of amnesty or mercy extended to them. So this is the details of the statement as we have it. I write to inform you, National Council at its emergency meeting held Friday, July 25, resolved in the interest of unity and reconciliation to grant a general amnesty to all party members who have been suspended or whose disciplinary cases are currently pending before the appropriate adjudicatory bodies. We hereby serve notice that this directive lifts all suspensions and waives any ongoing proceedings against affected members. So every member of the NPP who has been suspended, I mean, you could talk about Samikra, all the likes, so and those who left the party to form another movement, Alan Kojo Chairman Solomon Owusu, and then you have all of them in there. They say, oh, if you're left as a result of an act which then amounted to your suspension, they say all of that has been waived off. Just come home. Members who have forfeited their membership are required to submit a formal application to the National Secretariat for reinstatement. Upon reinstatement, you shall remain ineligible. And this is where the catch is. It says, yes, you'll be reinstated, but then you shall remain ineligible to contest any internal party election until a mandatory 2-year period has elapsed. It does not state whether you can vote or not. But then again, what is clear in this statement is that you cannot be voted for. But it did not state whether, you know, after your reinstatement, your vote is valid. But then again, it said you cannot be voted for after 2 years. Until after 2 years, you can't contest for any election. Don't dream about it. But then they go on to say this measure reflects the party's unwavering commitment to fostering internal cohesion, strengthening solidarity, and preparing collectively for the political task ahead. So the intent behind this statement is the act of unity. They want to reconcile the party and then also ensure that that drive for unity in the party is giving some momentum by this act of mercy and granting amnesty to these persons who have been suspended from the party. Professor Samuel Addo is a political analyst. He's a lecturer at the Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. He's joining us on Zoom. Thank you, Professor Addo, for joining us. First of all, I want to find out your thoughts about it, especially with the reaction that some persons who have been suspended have already given to this, that they rather want to be apologized to because of how they were suspended. You've heard the likes of Dr. Kennedy make that point, and the fact that even if you are reinstated, you shall not, in fact, you can't contest for any internal party election until after 2 years.
It's quite conflicting in terms of, for me, the way forward in trying to reconcile the party, especially on a tangent of encouraging those who are members of the party and have left to return. It should not come with many or several caveats. It should come with the need to allow for all party members to remain party members, because it's become essential to reflect on numbers around this time. One person may leave the party, one card-bearing member may leave the party, but he may be leaving with some tens or hundreds or thousands of people. And in that regard, you want to have all actors within the party, card-bearing members who have left, to also come back home. It is also to give a certain show a certain picture, a kind of aesthetics for the public to appreciate that the party is on the track of unifying its members. And on that track of unity, they would have the capacity to mobilize and marshal forces to make them, viable and ready for any future contest going forward into 2028. It is quite confusing to me when the party is putting a lot of, if you like, rules around this. If I will borrow the word amnesty, then you are saying that they are pardoned with no encumbrances. They are pardoned with no equivocations. And in that regard, you are not seeking to reflect on their sins if there are any which they've committed in the past. But a second leg is equally true, that these individuals, some of whom left the party, left because they were unhappy. They left because they did them in. They left because the party was not fair to them. So let no executive member of the party or any constitutional body within the party's framework assume that they are giving them some olive branch or some form of friendship, or they are trying to bring them in to help those people. It is rather for the collective good of the party, and the party need not have such posture when it is trying to, come about with this arrangement of inviting or encouraging those who have left to come home. It should be done in no uncertain terms with no encumbrances. It should be done wholeheartedly. It should not be done with suspicion. It should not be done with the notion of the fact that some of these people have left.
But that's it. So come home. I bought Eddie Raj medium say POG DS. A geography and I just say a political a updates and I just say the Bible someone else about the echo and the air pan. I message on subscribers to la or better post subscription. Now also I share no for so and so it's me account. Now bet me so abo at the rather comment section ho. Now also wedding come over na POG Media right. Everybody I am chat about my own aim. But that's it. So I just bring my POG. Best